we are going to talk about self-care products. Yes, I want to have this conversation because, one, we talk a lot about consumerism and how mental health has now been co-opted by capitalists and by, those who are trying to get us to buy things. And we need to have this conversation because self-care is very important and it is something that we should all be doing, but self-care does not mean that we need to go out and spend a bunch of money. Self-care does not translate to buy a bunch of shit. Like, if you feel as if you're not able to do self-care because you can't afford these ridiculous routines that you see people promoting, and really what it is just advertising products. And so self-care has been taken over by capitalism, and self-care is being sold to us, which the very nature of self-care is to care for oneself, right? In this world that is hectic and crazy and stressful, we need to be able to take the time to nurture and nourish ourselves and to care for ourselves. And listen, I'm not saying that products can't be a part of that. Like, I love my products. Okay, I ain't no minimalist. I'll be the first to say that. But what this has turned into is just straight up capitalism. And the idea that, like, this is how you do self-care is by buying all of these expensive products is simply not the path that we should be going down. And we should be moving away from this. I think ultimately, hyper-consumerism is a bad thing. Everything is commodified and they charge more and more money for these types of products because what they're doing is they're not just selling the products, they're selling this idea of self-care. So if you care about yourself, you will spend $40 on this tube, this small tube of lotion that will fix your soul. And the thing is, it's not like self-care is also different from just skincare routine and makeup routine. There are links between the two, but self-care has become its whole other genre. I'm not talking about what is your skin routine? Okay, what are the products you use, blah, blah, blah. We're talking about self-care as something that has become a part of mental health discussions and this thing that we are all, trying to adopt into our day-to-day lives. Maybe you do a self-care once a week, once a month, once a day, whatever it is, it has gone, it's in tandem with mental health care.
Cooling globes, scalp massagers, pillow mist, even affirmation cards, which are literally just cards with Pinterest quotes on it. Good quotes, don't get me wrong, but did they really need to be a physical product? Why did a manufacturing plant literally have to use paper and energy to print and package these and then ship them all across the world? And those aren't the only self-care products out there. Go onto TikTok and search the term self-care and you will be met with video after video of products.
This has gotten out of control. Individual people's cabinets now look like an entire Sephora. I don't know if you guys have seen these videos on TikTok of people showing off the amount of products that they have. People are rocking full-on pharmacies now. They have literal Sephoras in their bathrooms. It's insane. The amount of money that people are spending on products. This is literally tens of thousands of dollars. And the thing is, this expires. People do this with perfume too. Did you know that perfume expires? Seems like that'd be common sense. You would not believe how many people do not know this. And you have people who have these gigantic perfume collections that they don't use. They keep buying the perfume. It's like, okay, that expires. You know that, right?
It's as if the phrase self-care has become synonymous with buy more stuff.
Yes.
$101 for a Krabby Patty? With cheese, Mr.
This is insane. Why do you have so much? Why does your shower look like this? This is an addiction. Honestly, this is simply an addiction. Why do you have 10 different Dove body soaps?
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how hyperconsumption and the pursuit of caring for ourselves has distorted self-care and our relationship with money. Let's talk about whether we really need all these products just to find peace and health. And let's talk about the underlying reason we feel the need to buy into these products in the first place. The concept of using items in the pursuit of self-care isn't new. It can be seen in places like ancient Egypt, with Cleopatra herself supposedly bathing in tubs of donkey milk. Medieval Europeans
Get
had
it, girl.
skincare routines full of ointments and powders, and ancient China supposedly created and famously used jade rollers around the 7th century, a tool that is now one of the many viral self-care products we see across TikTok and Instagram. But nowadays feels different.
Let me show you what order you need to be using your products in when you take an everything shower.
Yes, there has often been a level
What is an everything shower? What are these terms? What do you mean?
of commercialization to aspects of self-care throughout history, but these days it feels more extreme. We have more products, more trends, and more media messaging that arguably steers us further from self-care's original purpose. For example, look at the routines that flood our social media feeds. Night routines, morning routines, shower routines, each one filled with new products, oftentimes targeting areas we never even knew we should be considering. Like, I think this is eyelash washing or conditioning here. To be honest, it makes my eyes burn a bit just looking at it. And what I think we're seeing here is this evolving visual language of what self-care means.
Okay, so let me ask you guys a question. Who has felt very overwhelmed in the last, let's say last year or two, by feeling like you're not doing self-care correct? Because I will raise my hand and say that. Any of this stuff related to self-care, I genuinely get stressed out by going, what? I didn't know I'm supposed to wash my eyelashes. I don't have a special like castor oil for my eyebrows. Like, what? There are so many self-care videos that I have seen now, or like routine videos, that genuinely stress me out. It does the opposite of what it's supposed to do, and it makes me more stressed out. Now, it's not enough to get me to like buy all that, but what it does is the effect of this being now how commodified self-care is that if you're not doing these things, then you feel like you're not doing it right. It's kind of like how TikTok has been a monster for pointing out parts of your body that you didn't know you were insecure about, but now you are. TikTok pointing out things and having names for things that you had never heard of before. And now you're like, great, I have a new insecurity that I didn't know that I had. Listen, this is why I talk about this stuff. So we are aware. So we have these discussions. So we understand that at the end of the day, this is about us buying things. This is about capitalism, okay? This is about making us feel as if we are inadequate, that we're not doing enough. So then we turn around and hand over our hard-earned money and buy all of these products that we don't need and products that we'll probably never use, but we bought them. And the crazy thing is that, like I said, there's skincare routines, makeup routines, and then there was this new concept of self-care. But self-care has merged, like all these lanes have merged because at the end of the day, it's about consumerism. And self-care was supposed to start off as a way for us to take control of our mental health, to, set aside time and energy and prioritize taking care of ourselves both physically and mentally. And now this is just like lanes have merged, boop, all into the sphere of consumerism.
It is difficult to communicate the inner work of self-care in a visual medium that is compelling and easily digestible. Like, how are you supposed to show the practice of learning to enforce boundaries in some colorful, aesthetic way? Or how do you show yourself reworking your relationship to substances in a way that fits with some popular Doja Cat song? It's possible, but it's awfully hard. At its best, these self-care motifs we see in media are like a silent film with no subtitles. They show us some actions of self-care, but leave the inner dialogues and emotional nuances muted, pushing us to equate self-care with mere physical gestures. But at its worst, commercialized self-care is arguably preventing us from becoming a better, more cared-for version of ourselves by having us.
So here's what I'll say. Here's an example of like how I do self-care. By prioritizing exercise. So if I'm in the middle of 10 different stories that I'm researching for stream or, emails with sponsors, et cetera, just like work, self-care for me is then taking the time to go on a hike and be out in nature and be with my dog and listen to some music and get exercise and feel good doing that. That is a way of doing self-care that has nothing to do with consumerism. That is not having to buy something that I slop onto my face as a way to fix fix my mental and physical health. That is me prioritizing doing something that is physically beneficial for me, whether that is 20 minutes of yoga, or that's taking a nap, or taking a really long shower, just something that in our day-to-day lives when we're running around and so busy and we don't take time to do these things, taking the time to do them.
Now, distraction chase is a bit of a harsh way to put it, and I don't think it's always necessarily true. I mean, is it absurd to believe that using a bubble bath mix for relaxing baths after work qualifies as a valid form of self-care? I don't think so. I think what I just described can be a great form of self-care. But to be clear, I don't think it's the bubble bath mix itself that is the self-care. In my opinion, the real self-care being done is the space created to decompress after work, to sit with yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, and to take care of your hygiene before bed, which will help you be more comfortable and healthier. It's a small distinction, but an important one. Because what I think our self-care product obsession does to us is conflate the product itself with the act of self-care. It can trick us into thinking that a product is an answer to a problem, when in reality, it might just be an accessory that you don't even need to get the same result. Like, you could still have a warm, relaxing bath to decompress after work without the bubble bath mix, and it could still be an incredibly effective practice for self-care. I think the following quote from this Psychology Today article perfectly captures what I'm trying to get across. Quote, "Self-care is not something we buy or do that exists outside of us, but rather a way of being in a relationship with ourselves." Okay, so we've mentioned the distinction between the act of self-care and a product that is sold to us as a self-care product. But that false connection between a product and its ability to lift us into some higher realm of self-care, where does that come from? Why is the first impulse for so many of us to buy something when we're in need of respite? Well, nowadays, I think one of the most popular places where we can find that false connection being made is through influencers and celebrities, which, let's be honest.
Yeah, and also when you buy things, it releases dopamine in your brain. And for some people, it releases lots of dopamine, and that's how you get a shopping addiction. I used to have a shopping addiction, and I had to work to get rid of it because I would get so high off of buying just like the act of buying something and having this new thing that I bought.
Honest is just a modern extension of generation-old marketing tactics. Take someone that you admire for their personality, their lifestyle, or their aesthetic, and then pair that with the visual language of self-care and a call to action at the end for the latest XYZ. And you have yourself a recipe for internalizing that this product they're pushing is the answer you've been looking for. And I'm not even talking the answer to a straightforward problem like getting your skin smoother or believing that just one more skin scrub, despite a cabinet full of others like it, will do the trick. I'm talking the subconscious abstract answers that we often seek, especially in regards to self-care, like how to get more peace, more calm, more joy for yourself. It is so easy to watch a celebrity or influencer, or honestly just friends and family online, and equate the narratives of self-care they're displaying with the products they're using, as if your ideal self-care state is only a purchase away. Buying something we don't need also gives us the sense of control, which might be what we're desperately seeking underneath our claims of self-care. When we feel anxious or stressed or uncertain about something, I think it's natural to seek out ways to feel in control of our lives. Like, maybe I can't control all the relationship stuff and work stuff that's going on in my life, but I can control the kind of face roller I get, the color I get it in, and when it shows up at my door. And that might be enough to quell my anxiety for a bit or give me some sense of autonomy. But the problem is that it is fleeting and superficial. Nevertheless, companies love that we do this because it feeds into this hunger we have for more buying, more throwing our money at items that we hope will facilitate self-care, and ultimately more products that might end up collecting dust or just littering landfills one day. This isn't to say that products aren't enjoyable or that we should never buy another massager or face mask ever again, just that we need to separate the ideals and aspirations of self-care from the products, so that when you do buy a massager or a face mask, you are truly just buying a massager or a face mask, rather than trying to buy into this larger, mostly fabricated narrative.
I'm in like the shampoo section. I don't need shampoo, but I just always like looking, and I found this hair oil, and I feel like I've seen this on TikTok, and I kind of want to try it because I'm just obsessed with like hair care products. This is the coconut miracle oil.
What I think so much of this comes down to is that while taking care of ourselves is absolutely important, hyperconsumption is not the only way to achieve this. And I know this sounds cheesy, but I think having a good relationship with your money and with your spending is actually a form of self-care. Checking in with how much money is going towards towards things we don't.
Yeah, because the thing is too, a lot of times you can buy the cheaper ones. It's not as if there's actually a difference. That is just marketing, right? When you buy the more expensive thing, the thing that looks fancier, the thing that's being advertised, the thing that's got all the fancy language that you don't understand, but it all sounds good. Just so many times, like, you don't need the expensive products. Now, I will say I have a few expensive products that I do stand by, but otherwise, like, I use CeraVe, I use Cetaphil, I have used every skin product under the sun, and those have always been tried and true for me. My late grandmother used Cetaphil her entire life. That's what all our grannies used. Don't confuse buying products with self-care.